Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Arbor Day to you all. Tree Day, hurrah. I'll just take a few minutes and just tell us how important trees are. I'm sure you guys already know how awesome trees are. Um, but I'd like to just share some cool stuff with you anyway. The first Arbor Day was said to be held in Montenegro, Spain in the year 1594. But here in the United States, J. Sterling Morton organized the first U.S. Arbor Day in April 10th, 1872, in Nebraska City, Nebraska. And over 40 countries globally celebrate some day of their calendar year to plant trees and celebrate trees. Here in the United States, Arbor Day is officially the last Friday in April. So today, Friday, April 30th, would make it Arbor Day. We know many of the benefits of trees, but it's worth reviewing them because they're so awesome. Trees help form soil by the leaves that they drop that decompose and form the humus of the soil and adding organic matter. Trees also, the roots of trees help break bedrock, and they help break apart the parent material into smaller and smaller pieces. So trees are both involved with the addition of soil and making new soil, and also weathering rock to become soil. Wildlife habitat is obvious. Transpiration and taking water out of the earth and sending it back to the atmosphere is a way to control the climate. Forests are also carbon sinks that can help remove excess carbon dioxide. Trees provide shade, and they provide temperature regulation, better than an air conditioner can do. Remediation. Some trees are actually used to help remove toxic materials from the soil. Trees are beautiful, and in many parts of the world, trees are energy. Trees are heat. Trees are what get people through the winter. Trees are renewable, and trees can be sustainable in terms of harvesting trees. We can selectively harvest trees. We already talked about forestry a couple weeks ago. We can make sure that when we do harvest trees that we replant some. We have seed trees. That's one of the strategies of harvesting trees. And we can also do what humans do well and do artificial selection, right? Polycultures, meaning like we can have trees, maybe orchard trees like apples or peaches, some tree that provides humans with a little bit of food, and we can combine that with shade-loving crops like lettuce and spinach. We can keep the demand in check for lumber by increasing money and how much it costs for trees. And we can also try to implement best management practices, or BMPs, which is the most studied and researched ways that we can tread as lightly as we can, but still harvest the resources we need. So I'm going to share a couple stories about how awesome trees are, little anecdotes from around the world. In the Pacific Northwest, it's technically a temperate rainforest. It does rain a lot out there. The salmon run upstream every summer to spawn. So you guys probably know this story. They go upstream for hundreds of miles, and then they eventually find their spawning ground. They spawn, and then they die. On this salmon run, grizzly bears feast. This is when they time it just about the time when winter is coming, so they're able to stock up their fat supply and just gorge themselves, along with eagles and wolves and everything in between, is feasting on the salmon run. The bears then defecate in the forest, and every other creature would, take their catch back to the forest, maybe a rotting fish head there and there, and that rotting salmon helps fertilize the trees and gives those Douglas firs and some of the other conifers in this part of the world the nitrogen and the phosphorus that they need to keep going. So there you go. A nice interconnectivity anecdote. On the other side, there are tree species in the American West that have adapted and evolved to have fire as a partner. not as an adversary, not as an enemy, but fire as a partner to help the tree grow and help the tree reproduce. Trees in the West have thick bark, like lodgepole pines, pinyon pines. Serotoninous cones, that is a pine cone that is actually sealed by a resin. And the only way that you can open the cone is through the heat of a forest fire. Can open the cones, and then the cones release their seeds. So in reality, the only way you can get these trees to reproduce is through fire. Fire-induced sprouting. Sometimes they'll only sprout, and sometimes the seeds will only activate with the heat of the fire. So it leads one to question, what's the real problem? Is it the fires that are getting worse, or the overdevelopment of people encroaching upon places that are used to fire? And this is I'd say the craziest connection. Fungi in trees, mycorrhizal fungi. The fungi colonize the root system of the tree. So the tree roots, dive down into the soil. They meet the fungi. The fungi says, "Listen, I can increase your water and nutrient absorption to the tree if you kick back a little bit of sugars." So the tree roots exude a little bit of sugars for the fungi to eat. The fungi help gather water more efficiently and other nutrients that the tree roots on their own would not be able to get. The fungi can also have been proven to protect trees from certain pathogens, other types of fungus that are not beneficial, bacteria, other kinds of pests. 90% of all plant species, not just trees, but all plant species, are estimated to have some sort of symbiotic relationship with mycorrhizal fungi. And this tree fungi network creates a literal network in the ground where chemical messages can be easily transferred between trees. So when one tree says, "Hey, I'm being attacked by gypsy moths," or "I'm being attacked by this bark beetle," it can actually send a chemical signal through its roots, and then it goes on this fungus network and goes to the other trees, so they can start producing chemicals that would help avert any more disastrous bark beetle infestations. There have been problems. The chestnut blight. Chestnut trees are a beautiful North American native tree, but a fungus was introduced from Southeast Asia in 1904. It was first discovered in the Bronx Zoo, and then within 3 decades, almost the entire population of American chestnut trees are gone. Dutch Elms disease, very similar story. A fungus carried by bark beetles, originally from Asia, first reported in 1928 on a shipment of logs that came from the Netherlands to be used as veneer, the kind of the ornate paneling on furniture and room walls. The Ohio furniture industry. 75% of all elm trees were lost by 1989. Here's pictures of how majestic a chestnut and an elm look like. There is a stand of elm trees in Central Park that is still untouched by Dutch Elms disease. This is actually Winnipeg, Canada. Apparently Winnipeg has another little sanctuary for elm trees that is untouched by the Dutch Elms disease. Poplar trees are very important because they've been used in the process of bioremediation, so using living things to help clean up a toxic site. The root structure provides organic carbon substrate beneficial to the microbes who eat the toxins. So it's not just the tree. The tree provides a good home for the good beneficial bacteria that's going to break down these yucky pesticides like atrazine. Dioxin is a very poisonous side effect of industrial processes. TCE, which is tetrachloroethylene, and Allicor, which is another pesticide. Poplar tree roots have also been known to remove heavy metals such as lead and cadmium from Superfund sites, which is a good thing when you're trying to clean it up. So for the rest of the class, you pick. You can practice identifying some trees around your home. You can snap a picture of each one. There's cool apps that as long as the leaves are out on the tree, you could take a picture of the leaf and it'll tell you what it is. Go outside and hug a tree if you want. You don't really have to submit the photo. Wangari Maathai is an African woman, and she is a hero. to many people around the world. But, take a quick Google search and figure out what she did for her countrymen and for her people and for the world. Or you can ask, what tree are you? I'm a sycamore tree. I do stand out in a crowd because I make a better wall than a window, but I try not to be too boastful. Sycamores like their feet wet by a riverbank. So do I. Being in a former bluegrass band called Narnia, I figured the super gnarly limbs of a sycamore is like, I like being gnarly. And my AmeriCorps connection with sycamores was that we used to do tree plantings all the time in AmeriCorps, and sycamores would always be the native tree that I always enjoyed planting, because maybe it was one that I always could identify really easily because of the peeling white bark. It also reminds me of weirwood trees, which is, a Game of Thrones connection, which I also enjoy. So, happy Arbor Day, everybody, and have a wonderful weekend. Bye.